I am David Kato. I am really distraught at how difficult of a week it's been for people who are not heterosexual, Protestant, middle class white men in this world. Bear with me because I know in many of your minds it may not make sense to talk about the two discussions in the same light. But when I explain to you this concept of soul murder, perhaps it will be more clear to you. This week, David Kato was murdered in his home in Uganda. He is a human being and a human rights activist. Evangelical Christians from America really catapulted, their presence really catapulted um, the struggle that gay people have in many parts, in fact, most parts of Africa. And so when evangelical middle class white heterosexual Christians went to Uganda to preach their hate speech and spew this venomous form of what poor Jesus is just the fall guy for everything. But when they went there, that really gave locals the credence to say, you know what, these people need to be murdered. Hang them, the newspaper article which printed their names said. Now, I come from Kentucky, and that will help me link back to Kelley Williams-Bolar. In Kentucky, people would probably do the same, and here's why. The Christians in Kentucky voted on a measure to ban gay marriage. It's on the state books now. It's part of the state constitution. It says if you don't believe what we believe, just like that Alabama governor said in the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, if you don't believe what we believe, you are not my brother, you are not my sister. Um, and whatever happens to you is really of no concern to us. Now, they will say that a Tyler Clementi is not what they had in mind, that a Matthew Shepard is not what they had in mind when they spew this hate and when this venom comes out of their mouths. But it is a very short leap to, I don't care about you, but the government won't let me hang you. And letting someone hang you is only, a development of the past 50 years because, a black man could be hanged where I come from at the drop of a hat. Lynching, white terrorism. We have to see that in this light because it's not that people have on the forefront of their mind that I hate niggas, I hate fags. They probably don't even, see what they're doing as hate. And hate is such a venomous word in itself that people really, Christians, fundamentalist Christians really like to distance themselves from that kind of rhetoric. It is not. It is not, because those same people send their kids to school armed with hate. It is not, the kids are crude. And the fact that they just come and repeat what their kids say. So the fact that, I get called a fag, a sissy, the girls, the so-called girls who don't fit the mold get called dykes, all that stuff, bulldaggers, they're just repeating what they heard at home in the crudest forms. And when teachers don't say anything, you think there's an entire climate of hate around you. So anyone who's grown up gay in America will know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't know what it's like to grow up as a sissy or a bulldagger in America, then just take a moment to take a deep breath and look around you. Don't respond, immediately. But take a moment to say, well, actually, do I know anyone who has had that experience, and what has it been like, and how is my Christian faith represented vis-a-vis the flesh? Now, listening to Kelley Williams-Bolar's situation in Ohio, I have two things to come clear with from my own perspective. A, as you can see, I went to school in Ohio, and B, I went to a school in Kentucky that was specifically not the norm. So I didn't realize that my own perspective is quite privileged. Everybody in my school caught the bus to school or had somebody drop them off or just walked to school. So I don't know exactly what it feels like to be carted across town because you live in the wrong zip code. And so in order to just circumvent this nation's apartheid-like system of funding public schools through local taxes, I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to be, to be integrating, Central High School in Arkansas and Louisville. And I don't know what it's like to be the kid on the front line. I have talked to people who have been those kids. The people who, in a generation before me, did integrate public school, and they went with a lot of venom on both sides. There was no public mediation of how do you bring two communities together who have been categorically separated. The race line itself, the one drop rule, categorically separated people. Misogyny, just like caste, endogamy here. So you look at the matrimonials here in India, it is caste endogamy. We're saying that this is the one drop rule. This is the line that cannot be crossed. And so when you suddenly bring these two groups of people together, what do you do to mediate this, if anything at all? And to hear the superintendent of that Akron school system that is just so wonderful. I mean, I'm imagining Ballard High School in my own city of Louisville, Kentucky. If someone were to say that, well, I'm just enforcing the law and I'm just upholding this, and well, this is where we start to see how the David Katos are related to the Brenda Williams-Bolar situation, because if you are a person who has black flesh in the United States, you are probably quite aware that the law has only for a fraction of our existence been on our side. And so crossing the law has sometimes meant, as some people have put it, in that same Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, has sometimes meant crossing over to God's side. So then you start to ask yourself, where is the law in conflict with moral leadership? And so I want to broaden this from just Christianity, because as we all know, although some of us still don't agree on this, Martin Luther King was not just fighting for the rights of black people. Martin Luther King was not just fighting for the rights of, Christian people. Martin Luther King was not just fighting for the rights of middle-class people. His wife was, a light-skinned, college-educated, middle-class woman. He was not just fighting for the rights of those kinds of people, as we know. And even though the likes of someone like, sitting on the bus in the wrong section, like Rosa Parks, we know that it was not just about Rosa Parks being a middle-class, well-spoken woman from that region. We know that there are women. There was a young, teen mother who did that before her. There was Homer Plessy who did that more than 50 years earlier than she did. There's a legacy of this. And it's not just about those few distinct people who happen to be in this little corner pocket. And so when you take a step back and you look at how is it that we have gotten to the point where we live in apartheid in America and we justify it through Christianity, that some people are more deserving than others. The Christian brethren are more deserving than non-Christian brethren, as that Alabama governor said. In that church, had the audacity to say this at an ecumenical service. I mean, it's just beyond my imagination that there are people who justify this. So I am a David Kato. I know what it feels like to be on the outside. I don't know what it feels like to be physically harassed as he was physically harassed. I mean, I'm sure I've had people throw shit at me, but I don't know what that experience feels like. But I know what it feels like to not have people stand with you because they're too scared, because somebody else told them something. I know what it feels like to be this woman in Ohio who was trying to get her children a better education, because just as, that $100 million that Mark Zuckerberg gave to schools in Newark, do you know what the governor of Newark said when he said how he understood this as his battle, how he was one of those kids in Newark? Because he went and he was in that room when there was a lottery of parents getting to send their kids to different schools. That's how they do it in Newark. It's all different all around the country, but the apartheid is the same. And he said there was one mother who said, I know that this lottery means that my kid will either go to college or to jail. And that is the situation that our current system presents to people. I know plenty of intelligent people from the West End of Louisville who didn't go to the right school, who didn't get the right encouragement, and so they went to jail instead of an Oberlin college. People in my own family. So which side do you stand on, and who do you stand up with, and who do you stand up for when lo and behold, they're dead, when their soul's been murdered, where they're locked up and in jail and they can't stand up for themselves? Who do you stand up for? You be blessed. Yes, child, you be blessed. You got it going for you.